Did you know the average automobile consists of roughly 30,000 parts? This is stated on factslides.com. According to a DOT study from 2007, on average, each family owns 2.28 vehicles. Think about how many families are in the U.S., and then think about how many parts are on the road each day. The chance of a vehicle malfunction is enormous, and a small group of people have the knowledge to take these vehicles apart, diagnose the problem, and repair the damage to keep our country moving. I am one of these individuals. Today I would like to share with you my skill of being an auto mechanic, how I learned this skill, my favorite project, and how I plan to use this skill in the future. At about the age of 10, I started hanging out at my grandfather's shop in Ellisville. Here I learned a few basics from my father, my uncle, and my grandfather, such as changing tires, spark plugs, brakes, oil, and fluids. By the time I was 14, I was working for my grandfather at his shop after school and on the weekends. My family had given me the basics and the opportunities to widen my knowledge over the automotive world. And over the years, I taught myself the skill of an auto mechanic by trial and error. And by my 17th birthday, I was ASE certified. Now that you know the depths of my knowledge in this skill, I would like to share with you my number one favorite project. When I turned 16, I had an old beat-up truck that I traded to my father for his diesel. I fell in love with this dusty and faded white Ford F-350. Over the first few months of owning my dream truck, it went through a total restoration of the body and motor. First, I stripped all the exterior molding and minor body parts like mirrors, bumpers, lights, and the grille. Then I buffed and waxed the entire exterior. And as I replaced the trim and the minor parts, they were all waxed and polished. This made the truck shine like a diamond. After that, I drove it back and forth to school for a few weeks, picking up oddball engine parts. And when I had a decent pile of parts, I pulled the hood and the fenders off the truck, pulled the motor and transmission, and the motor was torn down to the bare block and cleaned. As I started to rebuild, I kept most of the internal parts except for a set of new, bigger injectors, new cams, a better intake, and once the motor was finished and tuned, I put in a new updated clutch. Then I joined the motor and transmission, and while they were out, I painted the block and the transmission black. The heads were polished. The turbo was replaced with a new and better one. When I put it all back together and in the truck, I put the body back on. Now I had one of the best looking and by far the best running trucks at my high school. This truck was my pride and joy, not only because it made everyone's jaw drop as I drove it through town, but because of all the time, blood, sweat, and tears I had invested. This was the most satisfying and successful experience as a young man. Ever since I built that truck, I've learned that I've had a knack for the automotive industry and the internal and externals of cars and trucks. I hope to someday pass my passion for vehicles on to my children and grandchildren in the future, and hopefully they will pass it along for generations to come. In conclusion, being a mechanic has changed my life and my family's life because knowing your way around a vehicle not only saves money on repairs, but could also save the risk of an accident.